Let's Talk Broncos is ready to talk. Victory number 2 for the Denver. Well, not number 2, but 2 in a row for the Denver Broncos. And it's against the fucking Chiefs. They did it. There's no longer a narrative of 17 in a row. You didn't get that one, KC. Forever, F-U, KC. I'm done being a homer. Dante, first in the chat, gets a shout out here. We effing did it. Yeah, man. We did. I got to give props to Joey Richards. Joey was kind enough to take my tickets on Sunday. I wasn't going to make it down the mountain. And I thought, who better to take my tickets? I was like, it's going to be cold. I'm not going to make it. And even if I did, it would be late and Kansas City is going to maul the Broncos. Or just honestly, I couldn't figure it out. And Joey said, you know what? I will sacrifice myself for the cause and I will take your tickets and I will use your parking pass and I will sit in your seats and get a visit from Nick Ferguson and sit by all of my people in my section. Joey, fuck you. And also, I hope you enjoyed the game.
Bree, I mean, behind the scenes, guys, I've told Bree 1,000 times that I appreciate it. I had a great time. I was able to bring one of my friends that never went to an NFL game, converted him to a Broncos fan. He bought a PS2 jersey while there. So that was a win all in itself. But we are podcasting, Bree, so I do have to give you shit. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I feel like everybody knows me. If you're listening to this right now, you know me by now. You know me. I'm not taking credit for a Broncos W or anything like that. But what I will do is blame Bree for the Broncos L's. The moment Bree leaves, all of a sudden we get a W.
What the fuck?
I don't know. Does anyone else notice? Does anyone else notice? Does anyone notice in the chat? One for yes.
Well, yeah, there's one person who said, yeah, that's 1,000%.
I'm kidding, but
I don't know how to fix this. I will invoice you the remaining costs to my season tickets, and I will factor in absolutely zero concessions for it being cold weather. In fact, I'll charge you more just because it's football weather, as Zach Seegers would say. And you're welcome, and you get to sit and enjoy the view. They're good seats. Listen, I'm appreciative that you were able to enjoy this game. But really the big conversation now is that it's over. The pain, the agony, the constant I just can't believe they did it. Did you think that this was going to be the game? Did you have a feeling? Because I know we all had predictions, at least Frankie, myself, you, and Zach all had predictions that led to Kansas City winning. I believe Carter, Robbie, and Mario believed in the Broncos all along. So we have to give shouts out to the remaining LTB crew. They knew what was going to happen the entire time. They didn't get the score prediction exactly correct because I don't think anybody saw 24-9 coming. It was a convincing win by the Denver Broncos, and I think that's why we need to really lean into what was good. We'll do good, bad, ugly, indifferent. I'm pretty excited about this, but it also feels like a very weird victory Monday, and I've been saying that. I said that after the Bears game. The idea that there is now forward progression with the Denver Broncos, the trade deadline's tomorrow. There's been no movement. There's been very little movement across the NFL, and I went from thinking that potentially Jerry Jeudy gets traded to maybe nobody's moving. And for the last, I would say 9 days, my idea here is that nobody moves. Joey, how do you feel? Let's just get it out of the way. We won't have a show tomorrow unless something wicked happens. How do you feel about the trade deadline commencing tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the trade deadline, Sean Payton came out and said, we are not selling. We are not getting rid of players. Like, now, a lot of the time that's coaching talk. But, I mean, to the point where he said it, where it was like, no, we're not doing it. We're the last thing from sellers, was a little eye-opening to me. I've always thought – so here's my opinion, guys. Bree, I don't know if this has been the same from your perspective or if you've noticed the same thing, but it feels like every single week we're doing so much weekly analysis. It's shadowing the view of the entire picture. If we win, the Broncos we're the best team. Playoff shot, maybe. The moment we lose, Caleb Williams, Drake May, we have a shot at 1 or 2. It's like, guys, come on, we gotta find a little bit of gray there, and that's probably where we lie at the end of the day. especially after this. This game hasn't drastically changed my view of the Broncos season outlook. I think that the defense is going to be better than I initially anticipated. The offense looked like the same offense to me. Team that's amazing in the run and not very great in the pass, but stuck to the run and it paid dividends. I just would not change my trade deadline view because of this one victory. I think that would be poor judgment. That's something I wouldn't do. So if there were, yeah, go ahead, Brie.
I just think Sean Payton saying they're not sellers mean they're not getting the quantity or the ask that they're looking for, because everybody has their price. It's not that a team wouldn't move off of anyone, but if you start making moves for the wrong price, you have a roster who's going to have a little bit of an issue with it. And when you're so close to really turning, I'm not going to say turning a season around, but making headway on improvement, the defense has been improving week over week. The offense is now staying the same. You're finding a balancing act here. And I want to be very clear on, Joey hasn't said the word tank all day. I think that's a change in the right direction.
I haven't said the word tank because I think tank is kind of out of the rear view mirror now. Like, I don't think that they can tank anymore. I don't think if they tanked, they could get the first pick. And I don't think that if a team does get the first or second pick, they're probably not going to trade out of it. That team needs a quarterback too. That's why they suck. So,
are you willing to admit now that maybe it is what it is kind of the saying here for the Denver Broncos, like hoping for them to wind up with okay, it doesn't. You're not happy now. You're Zach Seegers. You're happy with nothing. You're upset with everything in general, and nothing's good enough for you. I'm glad that we've reached this point of synergy on LTV.
One thing I do have to say, as much as I've been on the tank train, like I feel like I've been the conductor of the tank train. If I'm being honest, I was saying that word on Twitter just because people didn't understand it and would get mad at me.
You were getting community notes at that point.
Exactly. But I feel like the inner Broncos fans me, like my stance has changed since some analysis, since I've started doing the podcast and writing and stuff like that, where it's hard for me to fully invest my heart into the team like I was. But I did grow up a Broncos fan, my entire life Broncos fan. And if there was a game that I would say throw the tank out the window for, it would be this one right here against the Kansas City Chiefs. So did I enter that game wanting the Broncos to lose for the tank? Not at all. One, I was there. Thank you, Brie, again. Two, the Broncos snapped a streak. So, of course, I'm going to be ecstatic about that. I've been excited the whole morning about the Broncos winning that game. It just doesn't overall change my opinion on the team. If there was a game that I wish the Broncos lost, it would be the Packers or the Bears. I wish they lost those. I wish they won 1 or 2 games this year and they both be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Could you imagine those were the only 2 wins they had on the season, and everyone would be scratching their head because analytics at that point get thrown out the window? If you want to get your reactions in for this Monday episode of Let's Talk Broncos, we're live right now over on YouTube. You can search Let's Talk Broncos, and while you're there, consider subscribing so you don't have to search for us every single time. We do have Dante, Paul's in the chat, Samuel Castro. Samuel has a question over on YouTube. Do you guys think the Broncos could get more trade value in the offseason for certain players? I think there's a pressure point in where and when you have to move off of certain players. I don't know who you're alluding to in general, but the wide receiver should have been done last offseason. If it was going to be any sort of movement in this upcoming offseason, it depends on, I think, what the Broncos want to do specifically with their top 2 wide receivers. The idea that Tim Patrick probably won't be back leaves the question of who's going to be the wide receiver A and B. Judy and Sutton right now occupy a really standard, I would say, B tier as far as wide receivers are concerned. Do the Broncos go out and get 2 heavy hitters if they are looking for a potential replacement, or do they bring in one guy who they think is going to really elevate the one of the other 2? And when I say one of the other 2, I think they do move off of potentially Jerry Jeudy still. Joey, how do you think the Broncos address this offseason if they make 0 moves tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend how the season went, Brie. That's how I would have to put a little asterisk next to this is it would depend on how the rest of the season went. If we saw the Broncos of yesterday throughout the rest of the season, I bet you they're just looking to add. Now, do I think that's realistic? Like I said earlier, one game isn't going to change my entire opinion on the Broncos team. I think the Broncos are a playoff team? No. So that's what I'm going to kind of roll with this point here I'm making. If they're not selling now, I bet you after the offseason they are. That's one thing I do think, because whether we like it or not, and Bree, maybe I'm foreshadowing later conversations, but it's probably best for the Broncos to move off of Russell Wilson this offseason. And in doing that, you're going to have to create money somehow. And how do you do that? It's going to be getting rid of players. That's the only way to do that. And replacing them with cheap options, a la trading players for draft picks.
So interesting enough, we can't lean on Zach Seegers here, who's our cap guy, who would be able to walk us through what the ideal circumstances are. But Courtland Sutton's contract presently doesn't apply a lot of pressure on the cap. You really aren't looking to move off of a lot of the offensive line, specifically some players you can't. And yeah, I wouldn't either, because what you need in order for that success to really happen is to keep some continuity there within the line. The more you try to plug and play, the more you find the issues that you're presently seeing with the Broncos offensive line. Although I don't believe any of the I don't believe a lot of the issues that you're seeing are solely on the line itself. And I do want to sort of allude and I want to say bookend this conversation with what Joey was leading into before, is I still think Russell Wilson is probably not the answer long-term, but long-term meaning how much longer? Do you think Sean Payton would choose to move forward for a second year with Russell Wilson?
Here's the thing, right? So if you keep Russell Wilson on the roster, you're eating another year of massive contract. You're just delaying that contract. So another year of big Russell Wilson money would be on the books. And you really have to sit there and ask yourself, is he worth that money? And the answer is probably not. I don't know if anyone was able to look at the little, I don't know what the name is of the graphic, but it's the shot chart pretty much. The NBA terms. It shows where the passes were thrown for the game. Russell Wilson, I mean, almost all the passes were within 10 yards, and a lot of those were behind the line of scrimmage.
Of 19, 14 were.
Well, there you go, Bree. like, is that a quarterback worth a ransom? No. The Broncos are they're scheming around Russell Wilson's deficiencies. That's the main thing. And if you're a fan of Sean Payton like I am, what do you want to see? You want to see a quarterback that can make all the throws in his offense. We're only seeing a little bit, the tip of the iceberg of what this offense can be. The offensive line we were just talking about, Bree. When's the last time I could say the Broncos offensive line looked good in prior years? Can't.
Do you think they look good right now?
I think that they're a really good running game unit. And I think in the passing game, they have an anchor. One guy, that's an anchor, being Mike McGlinchey. But in the run game, I think all five are pretty good. I really do. Ben Powers. And I tweeted this out today, Bree. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but hey, we're potting. The Broncos this offseason, what did we say? We said that the Broncos were signing players with a clear identity in mind. They wanted to be a power mouth. We're big and we're strong and we want to punch you in the mouth football team. And guys, what are we seeing? We're seeing that with this team. The Broncos.
Well, you noticed that. You saw that on Sunday where they were basically solidifying that idea, running 7 on the line. You're throwing your big body tight ends in there because what exactly are you trying to facilitate? A very efficient run game. And so I think what we thought they were going to start the year with, and it seems like they tried to go in one direction, hoping it would work out. And then they decided, nope, that's not going to happen. And they made a mid-season decision to kind of change that up, or maybe a quarter season decision to change that up. Do you feel that's accurate for the decision-making changes you've seen so far?
Yeah, definitely. I would say a mixture of things. I think that and one other thing. So I agree with you in that the Broncos they're just being more consistent with the running game, being more patient with it. It's going to end up paying dividends down the road, or in this case, the game. I also think, though, that it's a sign of, hey, I'm a little more confident in our defense than we were early in the year, where we have to score now. We have to score right now, right now, right now, because our defense is that bad. So you're passing the ball a lot more than you probably would have liked to if you had confidence in your defense or if you weren't behind in a football game. Now, I mean, if you're holding the Chiefs to those numbers like the Broncos defense did yesterday, you feel good saying, hey, we have a really efficient running game. Let's lean on that. That's something that we can do to control the clock and continue to pile on some of these points here and win the football game ultimately. So that was really good to see.
This is an appropriate comment from Christian Danaski and over on YouTube. I'm tired of Russ missing passes and holding on to the ball. I'm a big fan of getting Russ outside of the pocket, but I don't like the terrible pocket awareness. I low-key want to try Stidham. I don't think that you're going to see Stidham anytime soon unless things start to fall off the rails after the bye. The Bills will be an interesting concept as the Broncos get a 10-day break now, headed into the bye week. Joey, how do the Broncos win the bye week? We'll obviously talk about that more, but how do you carry the momentum moving forward? Not trading players and kind of standing pat seems to be what direction my brain is ticking, but I don't know if I've really gained a lot of optimism for where I think this team could go. I think I'm going to need to see further proof. I think that there's a optimistic lens in which you could see, well, if they play like that every single week, there's a wild card berth in their future. I don't think that I'm there. I don't think that I will get there until it's actually happening, and then I'll still be there sitting and asking what happened. But how do they win the bye week, and where's your head around this team right now?
This is like the most confusing question ever. I mean, in typical Broncos fashion, they leave you confused. You don't know what to think about this team. I mean, you just won 2 back-to-back. And now I'm still going to be here on this podcast talking about they should sell. That is something that's disappointing, right? I don't want to say that after 2 back-to-back wins. But ultimately, I would say getting the most out of certain players that you were thinking about trading before the Chiefs game. Still, that's the way my brain operates with this. I'm still looking for a Jerry Jeudy trade. Is he a good player? I definitely think so. I haven't seen him go up and catch through contact on that deep post route like he did in that Chiefs game.
I haven't seen that in a very long time, Joey. Yeah. I was shocked at how much I popped from that play.
Yeah. I mean, that was such an impressive game, and I love seeing it. He got up, spun the ball, was talking shit after. I loved it. But it was something where it's like, okay, Bree, that touchdown Jerry Jeudy caught on that same possession. That I had a great angle of that. Thank you again, Bree. I'm going to say thank you like 5 times.
I was thinking about that when I saw it.
Yeah, great angle. That play was drawn up for Jerry Jeudy all the way. Everything cleared out for Jerry Jeudy to catch that touchdown. That's what we call a schemed pass. Russ was just kind of scrambling back there, which made it a little harder than what it probably had to be. And when we get the film, we'll be able to confirm. But that's what I saw in the game. And
check the tape.
Yes. And it made me think, Bree, do you remember that last Howard game in the preseason?
Uh-huh.
The one where he went crazy, right? What did the Broncos do the week after?
They got rid of him. They traded him.
They traded him. Man, if there was a time to trade Jerry Jeudy off of these last weeks, it would be right now. We saw that big-time catch he made. We know the route runner Jerry Jeudy is. That's never been in question from even his skeptics. And then we're seeing these scheme touches, different things like that. I think that if there is a week to trade Jerry Jeudy, it would be now. And I just kind of had a flashback to Alberto a little bit.
I like how Samuel Castro is now throwing another hypothetical at us. Hypothetically speaking, what if the Broncos win 5 straight? Then what do the Broncos do? prep for some traveling, I would assume. But
get ready for the playoffs.
yeah. Pack your bags, buddy. It'll be interesting to see what happens the last couple of games. I know the Vikings come to town. The Broncos are in Buffalo. You still have 2 Chargers games that are floating out there in the distance. Another Raiders game where hopefully they can end that streak, so I never have to say the word streak again. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but the progression is nice. It's not too little too late. I think it's the inconsistency that worries me, because one week we can be sort of celebrating a win, and I think that we're both hesitant. I can feel it in the way that we're choosing our words. If this was any other year, if this was any other season, I think we'd be losing our fucking minds. And right now, we're both kind of like, great win, really exciting, but I can't lose touch on what we've been seeing or get too excited about what the potential leads to. But I shouldn't speak for you, Joey. But we'll continue to talk about that this week of kind of where our head's at. I wonder what Zach Seegers would say. I don't think his vantage point on the team has changed much. I don't think mine is either. I think you still do need to make some changes, some sweeping changes, and we don't know who's going to be on this team next season, let alone on Wednesday. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens on Tuesday as the trade deadline commences. It'll be spooky because tomorrow's Halloween. Joey, are you dressing up for anything? Did you dress up this weekend?
I did dress up this weekend. I went to a Halloween party. I was like Steve Irwin one night, and then and then I was like a mafia dude.
Did you have a stingray with you?
I didn't have a stingray. I had like a butterfly catcher on my back, and I dressed up in the all khaki. I got the button up. I got the shorts, the khaki shorts. Well, I was Steve Irwin to the max, talking about crocodiles.
Did you have a cheat sheet of all your crocodile facts?
No, I should have, though. I should have just been talking the accent the whole night, too, the Australian accent.
I'm sure. USMC Sniper said, Bree and Joey, I don't know about you guys, but I thought about this today. If our defense continues playing consistently like they did yesterday, I'd be fine with VJ coming back, barring any head coaching opportunities. The split second decision you make after a really demoralizing loss like to the Dolphins, and everyone very much so wanted blood and to churn the waters and to turn over everything and to smash the boat right into the iceberg, whatever analogy you want to use. I think that there is an idea that as Vance Joseph now gets to run a semblance of what his defense needs to look like, without the idea that there's a push for Vic Fangio's defense, or the players are trying to manage 2 different schemes. I think what you're going to see for the rest of the season is Vance Joseph running what he needs to run in order to highlight these players, and basically letting the players go out there and truly determine what they're good at. I think you see that paired with the return of Justin Simmons, who is going to continue to really lead this defense. And you're going to see a very different defense than the jumbled chaos that you saw in the first 5 or so games. If that continues, I think there's a conversation, and I think that it ultimately would be a decision of whether or not everyone agrees that's the best decision for this team. And I don't know what that is. I'm not mad at Vance Joseph right now. And I think trying to pin what had happened the first couple of games solely on him is misguided. But I also think that there's different options for what this team is going to be looking for, specifically when it comes to what talent is on that roster on the defensive side of the ball. Because one really key movement, one really key disbursement of pieces, one confirmation of a player not coming back due to injury is going to dictate where this defense is going to go. And I think that will also dictate who is in control of that defense. Joey, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. So to answer, Bree, I thought you made some really great points there. To answer that question, I would say this. I would say if it were to stay consistent for the last weeks of the season, I would probably say the same. Now, here's something to think about. The Broncos are looking a lot better. Why? I think a lot of it has to do with the Broncos having, Baron Browning's back. That's a big plus. And then I'm looking at it. I'm like, PJ Locke is playing. McMillian is playing out of his mind. There's some certain moves like that. And then Fabian Monroe is in there. Moreau is in there for Damari Mathis. Now, a few of these moves, I'm just saying, could have been done this offseason. We could have started week 1 with a lineup similar to the one we have now. Obviously not Baron Browning, but everyone else I listed, they were available and they could have played. They just didn't. So who am I putting the blame on for that? That ultimately does fall on Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator. And that would be my only thing in saying, hey, let's hold off a second because.
But what are you trying to?
I think these other guys are better players.
Which player is playing right now defensively who wouldn't have been playing aside from because of injuries? Kareem Jackson's the only person that you're basically targeting there.
No, I mean, saying Bassey started the season, he's not even on the team anymore.
True.
And McMillian looks like so far through 2 weeks with him, he looks really good. He looks as good as any of the other nickels that the Broncos could have picked up. I mean, this INT he had last week was really impressive. TFLs, tackles for losses, guys. That's awesome. He's doing stuff like that. Or Moreau. He could have started over Damari Mathis at the beginning of the year. I understand. Damari Mathis is a young player. He had a good season last year. But Moreau, he was still on the team. He's still someone that could have played, and he looks like a huge upgrade over Damari Mathis. Damari Mathis got 8 snaps this last week. I saw him at least 2 where it was like, damn, what is Damari Mathis doing out there? 2 of his 8. So it's like, it's just, I don't know. That ultimately you do have to put a little blame on the defensive coordinator for that. That's all.
Okay. I think that's fair. Anything that struck you? Oh, okay. I got to comment on this one because Justin Simmons being back spells just absolute success against Kansas City. He picks off Mahomes again. And in a way, I don't know if you rewatched it or not, Joey, because the clip's been floating around. The way that he steps back, and you can tell he's hunting, obviously, right? He's watching that ball. He knows it's coming in. He knows this is the one he's picking off. He's just putting himself into position. The fact that he had so much time to put himself in position was honestly the most, I want to say like breathtaking because I'm speechless every time I see him do it. He knew exactly what he was going to do in that play. I believe Mathis was the one in coverage there. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was a little bit of perhaps pass interference going on, but I wanted to point out very much so that Justin was going to have that ball no matter what was happening with that receiver and that defender. Really exciting to watch, and it was like you knew it was going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and so I was very excited that he got to keep his streak going, and now we've ended the other one. So, yeah, did you have anything you wanted to say on that?
No, I mean, just that Justin Simmons has Pat Mahomes' number, man. He gets a lot of interceptions against Pat Mahomes, which is good to see, especially another one in the game where we break the streak. But, Bree, I'm going to ask you this question. I know it's going to be hard because you're a massive Justin Simmons fan. You've let it known on this podcast. Ever since you started on the podcast, you've let us know. But we were talking a little about the trade deadline earlier. Is Justin Simmons a player you would consider trading if the price was right?
Man, I had another interesting conversation this morning about Justin Simmons, but no. And I'm just not in the school of, okay, this is really hard. If he's going to go to a contender in which he is mutually agreed upon, where that's where he wants to go, because I think that's first and foremost what they owe him as the player, not only as the player, I understand that the NFL is a business. I understand what needs to happen if you're trying to get the most that you can out of a player. But they did it with Vaughn. They did it with Randy Gregory. Send him somewhere, and if he wants to get that done, then I would be 1,000% behind it. I want nothing but the best for Justin Simmons, his family. His mother is wonderful. Like, I just want to make sure that he is taken care of wherever he goes. And if that's what he wanted to do, then I would support it 100%. I wouldn't be vouching for it. I wouldn't be celebrating it. Hefe KC is in the chat saying Chiefs. I'm not going to highlight the comment because I mean, take the L on the way out. I don't know. I don't have a fighting spirit against this. I'm just happy I don't have to talk about the Chiefs for the rest of the year. But
yeah,
yeah, I would support it, and I think that if it happened, it would be the right thing to do. Only if it was the best thing for the player.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
Fair. I mean, Justin Simmons is a player on the Broncos that you might want to give that luxury to, and I'm not saying that for all the players. Pretty much any other player on the Broncos, if it's time to trade him, trade him. But Justin Simmons has been so good on this team for so long. Shout out to Hefe. Hey, man, your team's great. I don't know what else to say there. I kind of hate you guys.
I don't want to talk shit. Hefe only took 16 losses. LOL. Just kidding. Good game. Thanks, Hefe.
Can I add one more point just to the overall game real quick, Brie?
Yeah.
Perfect. I just want to shout out, hey, if you had any doubts about Sean Payton as a head coach, I think that this game really answered some of those questions for you guys. The Broncos on offense, Brie, we mentioned it. The quarterback position just was not there. Yet the Broncos still found a way to score points. The Broncos worked the way around that to not only get a win, but against a team that I think is a Super Bowl contender. Scoring points, playing big football, doing creative things on offense. Like, with making the most out of some players that I don't think other Broncos coaches would have made the most of. I don't know if Chris Manhertz is as impactful on other teams in the NFL. Quinn Bailey, who else is playing their sixth tackle as much as Sean Payton is playing Quinn Bailey and making the most out of him? Or even giving a guy like Jaleel McLaughlin a chance, who's an undrafted free agent out of Youngstown, and he is a real difference maker on this team. These margin moves the Broncos are making with guys that are kind of just role players, they're maxing out their role. They're bringing the most out of them, which is something I really appreciate about Sean Payton so far this year. And I think they all played a big part in why the Broncos won this last week. It's going to be fun. I think that even in the draft, and Frankie tweeted this, and it was a great point, you can find those type of role players like the ones I was mentioning. And do I want to throw the ball to Chris Manhertz a lot? No. But can he block his ass off? Yes. You're going to be able to find players like that that can fit a niche in the 4th, 5th, 6th round of the draft. And, hey, I'm really excited to look at that 4th, 5th, 6th round of the draft, look at what they're best at, and try to figure out how the Broncos are going to utilize them on offense, because this year they've been able to do that.
I have nothing to add there. I think you wrapped that up really nicely. But where was it up until this point? Was it still trying to gel with what was expected from the players? Was it a slow start like we had been predicting? I don't want to comment on it too much until we see how the rest of the season shakes out. But I do think that you saw glimpses of something that could work really well and gives you an idea that, and I like the way that you put it, whoever they put under center is going to find success, and that you're not going to have to wager the entire fucking farm in order to get some success in the Broncos moving forward, which has always been, I think, the idea, right? Like, all of the moves have been, well, if you swing away, it's going to eventually pay off. If you're going to constantly have turnover in the quarterback position, you got to find some success. And so potentially the combination of Sean Payton and the right quarterback for what he wants to do could start to spell some consistency. And I think we haven't seen a whole lot of consistency out of the Denver Broncos for a handful of years too long. And I think we can both agree on that. So
1,000%.
The last thing I want to point out that I was really excited for, and then we're going to get out of here. So if you want to get your comments in, do it now. Paul is saying Jules, Simmons, Judy, and Sutton are only players I'd see moved. We'll see. I think you should drop a little poll if you want to go ahead and join in on the conversation. You can. We'll do an emergency pod tomorrow if there's any big moves that happen. But time in, time out, every time we see the Chiefs play, every time the Broncos play the Chiefs, the number one criticism is that there's never a answer for Travis Kelce. And what we saw the Broncos do is something I didn't think that any team was really capable of doing. And that was shutting him down, which it gives me a lot of hope for. I've been saying on this podcast, while people are screaming at me that there is a lack of talent on this defense, that on Sunday, I think that a lot of Broncos country can see that there's a lot of talent, passion, ability. And now there's a plan. There's an action plan, and planning for Travis Kelce. Maybe not single-handedly won the game for them, because I know Mahomes was a little bit off, but at the end of the day, he wasn't running fucking wild on the Denver Broncos. And that's all I wanted. That is literally all I wanted to see. That's all I want to see every time they face them, is shut them up a little bit and stop letting them do whatever they want and do merry-go-round freaking weird snaps and make a mockery of the sport like they tend to do. I get having fun. I get being really good and getting to dance around and enjoy the game. But I'm so glad that there wasn't some stupid highlight reel of everything that they get to do game in and game out. And it just felt really sweet to get to see that happen.
Yes. Now, adding to your Travis Kelce point, Brie, like they did a really good job against Travis Kelce. But one thing, man, I took away, the Chiefs need a wide receiver so bad. If we're looking at some trade deadline moves for the AFC West, man, do the Chiefs need a wide receiver? I would be out there, and if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm sitting there thinking I'm a Super Bowl contender this year, I'd be going out there to try to make a move. I don't think they're set there at all. What I saw from those guys, not very good at all. I didn't see it. I didn't see what I wanted to see from them. Go get yourself a wide receiver, KC, not because I'm a Broncos fan, but yeah, if I were,
or maybe one that can just hold on to the ball. They're not asking for much. They don't need a lot. But I do think that, the offense continues to be sort of lacking on a certain front, but I don't think that means that this win for the Denver Broncos needs a star or a check mark or a caveat that says that, they won, but, no, it's a win, and any Sunday, any team can win. And I just want to, basically, put that out there. USMC Sniper said, plus, like I've told you off air, it feels great to give Patrick Mahomes his first loss on the road against the AFC West. You nailed it there, USMC Sniper. You can check us out the rest of this week. Tuesday is going to be the Buffs show. Wednesday, we're back as a trio, plus Will Keys and Brandon Perna for That's Good Broncos. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and wish Brandon Perna a happy birthday. His birthday was yesterday. Honestly, I think that's probably what got the Chiefs to lose the game. They didn't want to make Perna sad for another year. Thursday, you're going to tune into the Thursday show. And then Friday, we're back as a trio to end out the week. I think Casey's receivers are perfect. Sure. All right, Joey, anything for the listeners before I drop us out of here?
Yeah, to Charlie's comment, it's perfect for the Broncos. I agree. We want to keep it. Otherwise, guys, just make sure, Bree said it all. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the Let's Talk Broncos podcast. We're doing this daily pretty much. We have content coming out all the time. Hey, shout out to everyone that was in the chat today. I so appreciative, and I don't feel like I say it enough, of everybody that listens to this podcast. It means the world to me. It's unbelievable. I'm even able to come on here. People listen to me talk football. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I've been talking football all day. So if you want to hear more of me tomorrow, 9 a.m., 0 to 60 Podcast Believe Network, go ahead and subscribe. Check it out. Paul's donating $10 saying happy Halloween. But 9 a.m. every single day, go on over to my Twitter. Follow me. Turn notifications on if you really have to. Oops, I didn't mean to click out of that. Paul, thank you. I was still still giving you a golf clap. But if you want to hear me talk more this week, you can catch me 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Mountain Time as I roll during this. What else would I be doing? Having a great time. All right. We'll catch you tomorrow, and go Broncos.